Segment three, Gold and Black Live, joined by Brian Newbert, and this is something we haven't done, I think, all year. It has had a one-on-one segment about anything, but mainly Purdue men's basketball, and the opportunity. Brian will be making the trek to Uncasville, Connecticut, for the Mohegan Sun. Purdue men's basketball will be taking on the University of North Carolina on Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock tip. And a very challenging weekend, Brian, for Purdue, because if once the Boilermakers play Carolina, the next day they'll get either Tennessee, who I think is ranked in the top 20, and of course Villanova, with the winner or the loser, depending on what happens to Purdue on Saturday. Brian, it's been an impressive start, at least to my viewing. You've seen it and analyzed it up close and personal. This is Purdue's a very good basketball team, but it's certainly going to have its biggest test and then some in a long time when they play this weekend in Connecticut.
Yeah, this is their chance to, see how they stack up, to kind of validate what everybody views them as. And through the first three games, I don't see anything that screams to me as cause for concern that maybe they're not what everybody thinks they are. I think Purdue's in a really good spot. I think they're a really good team, a potentially great team. But you never know until you face this level of talent, this level of coaching, this level of athleticism. And, Purdue is a really good offensive team, a potentially elite offensive team, but they need to show that they've made some progress enough from a defensive perspective in order to, I think, be a great team, period. And this is a great opportunity for them to, show that the continuity from last season matters. The thing about college basketball nowadays is so many people are breaking in transfers that I think these first few weeks of the season are going to be a little more choppy than that they historically have been. And obviously, anytime you're dealing with 18-year-old males, choppiness is just sort of the nature of the beast. But I think nowadays there's going to be less teams are going to hit the ground running the way maybe they used to be able to if they have a lot of experience. Purdue ought to be different because, yes, you're breaking in Caleb first, but by and large, this whole team is intact from last season. So that continuity, I think, is something that really needs to matter for Purdue kind of right out of the chute here.
You talked about North Carolina, and obviously an elite program probably on the Mount Rushmore of men's college basketball in terms of where they've been over the years. This is a team that ranked lower than Carolina often is to start a season, but a team that is never short of talent. The program is never short of talent. North Carolina is, and I know they're 3-0. They kind of snuck by Brown, but had beat College of Charleston as well early on. What do you know about it? But also, just again, that opportunity to beat a major brand. Purdue is becoming a major brand in college basketball too. But this is an elite opportunity just to play a team like Carolina.
Yeah, I'm sure there's still a little bit of a transition period going on to Hubert Davis taking over for Roy Williams. I'm sure they're still kind of learning as they go in that sense. They're breaking in some transfers too. Dawson Garcia just joined them. Brady Manick from Oklahoma just joined them as well. So they're kind of figuring it out, just like everybody else in college basketball probably is. I don't know if it's a typical Carolina team. I don't know if this is that same lethal fast break, sort of team quite yet. They've got good big guys in Armando Bacot and obviously Dawson Garcia at the 4, Brady Manick at the 4 as well. So this is going to be a game that really challenges Purdue at both ends of the floor, all over the floor, because they've got really good big guys who are going to test Zach Edey and Travion Williams and Caleb First. But they've also got really good guards in Caleb Love and RJ Davis and Kerwin Walton, who's a great shooter. They're really going to test Jaden Ivey and Brandon Newman and Sasha Stefanovic and Eric Hunter and Isaiah Thompson and everybody else who's got a guard on the perimeter for Purdue. This is a level of athleticism Purdue's not even come close to seeing yet. And against a lesser level of athleticism, Purdue wasn't so hot against the dribble. This is a game where they're really going to have to be dialed in from a defensive perspective and not assume that just because you have run roughshod over everything in your path offensively that you can just roll the ball out there and outscore anybody you play against. They're going to have to keep their eye on the ball, so to speak, from a defensive perspective, be hyper aware about the turnover issue, because that's a bigger defensive issue than it is an offensive issue. And just be really, really sharp, because you have to be at your best to win games like this. And that's what Purdue's been working toward here for these last 3 games.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of a show and tell in this one. Certainly, Purdue has been very impressive in its first victories. Is it still? I mean, if you're going to ask the one question that you want to find out through this weekend, and again, I understand it's November, but is it the ability to defend? Is it the ability to have Edey and Williams be such a dominating presence against elite competition? Is it Jaden Ivey stepping up to the elite level that one would expect from him? I mean, what's that question? Is there one way to boil? Is there one that you can boil it down to? If you're going to look at this through the lens of Sunday evening after you've seen 2 games, what do you expect what do you really want to find out?
Well, I think all that stuff applies, and I think I could talk for 20 minutes straight just on all of the things that kind of come into play in this game. But kind of boiling it down to one big thing, I think this is an opportunity for Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey to kind of show everybody what they're all about here. I think Purdue's got 2 potential, superstars, kind of growing into that with every day that kind of goes by. And I think this is their big opportunity now to, I guess, go out on a national stage and show everybody what they are. And I think that they'll represent themselves very well. I think Jaden Ivey's still feeling his way around a little bit with all this added responsibility on him from an offensive perspective, picking his spots wisely, decision making, things like that. He's in a very different sort of context now. And this is a guy who's played 30 college basketball games now, if that. Yeah. Zach Edey, I think, obviously is a guy who has never really, backed down from anybody. Some of the guys he had to play against in the Big Ten last year, but I think now's his chance to really do it against high level competition at the start of a season in which he could be one of the better big men in all of college basketball. I think obviously the way he played overseas this past summer was just one of the things that kind of led into this. And I could see those 2 guys both having really big weekends for Purdue and really, really getting a lot of people nationally talking about both them and Purdue alike.
Yeah, that's the advantage of these November games and the opportunity to do it. To be the first, really, because it's before Thanksgiving week where a lot of those tournaments come about as well. This is kind of the early precursor to that. Now, you were at that venue, was it 2000? You said Caleb Swanigan's
2015
year. Yeah. And anything about that? I mean, just in terms of what's the environment like there? I mean, obviously you're going to have 4 marquee teams there. Villanova's not all that far away. One would think they'll have some fans there. What's the venue like in terms of that? What do fans come to expect? I know the Purdue played Old Dominion in Florida last time and won that tournament. Anything that is new and different, or anything that makes that any level of a story in terms of where they're playing?
Well, it's a real life arena. I mean, it's a pretty high level facility. That's where the Connecticut WNBA team plays. They have a lot of concerts there and things like that. So it's not like a gym or a ballroom or something like that where you see some of these tournaments played. The last time I was there, it wasn't a big time environment, but you had Florida there, you had Old Dominion, and I can't remember who the other team there was, but you didn't have these sort of brands that, Villanova, if they travel to the Mohegan Sun the way they traveled to the NCAA tournament a few years back, they're going to have a ton of people there. North Carolina has a national fan base. They're going to have a bunch of people there. Purdue always turns out well for these things. It's going to be a different animal this time. Plus the whole post-COVID fact, I shouldn't say post-COVID because COVID's very much still going on, but the whole post-shutdown era of this too, you never know how that's going to play. I haven't been out East. I don't know how people are dealing with things out there now, but I assume that given the enthusiasm I've seen at Purdue to get back out there and get to these games, I would imagine things might be the same dynamics might kind of apply. So I would expect this to be a pretty good environment. What these things very rarely are are big time environments. These are made for TV sort of events. They're not the most stimulating live events all the time. Maui is different. Atlantis can be different because they're very small, very quaint venues, and those are different animals. But by and large, a lot of these things are just played in empty arenas, and they're just there for TV. I would think this is probably somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't anticipate the place being sold out, but I would anticipate at least there being a good number of people there, and those people to be very enthusiastic.
I think you're going to find that and then some. So, all right, Brian, it's safe travels, and we'll look forward to you reporting on goldenblack.com. A busy weekend when you tie that in with the football game and all that's going on with Purdue's game tomorrow at Wrigley Field. That game is at noon Eastern, and I believe that the Purdue, North Carolina will tip at 4:00 on the ESPN News, I believe, and obviously you can listen to it also on the Purdue Radio Network. And Brian's coverage will be extraordinary as always after it's over. So, all right, we will thank our sponsors: Triple X, Hilton Garden Inn, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, Gordon Jackson, and the good folks at WLFI for putting this together. No Golden Black Live next week, but we will be back with a December, probably a bowl preview type edition, and then back weekly again in January. But we appreciate all of you, and have a great Thanksgiving. And of course, again, we also want to say that we wish a great Thanksgiving to all, and also thank you all for watching this program each and every week. We appreciate you very much. So have a great week, have a great Thanksgiving, and Brian, safe travels, and we'll see you sometime in December. We'll post on the site probably the second week of December, after we know Purdue's bowl opposition, which we'll find out after the first week of December. So have a great weekend, everybody.